April 24th, 2023 at 5 p.m. Roll call, please.
Ms. Acosta,
Here.
Ms. Fabry,
Here.
Mr. Fiocchi,
Here.
Mr. Holmes,
Here.
Mr. Rivera,
Here.
Mr. Sabrana,
Present.
Mr. Silva,
Here.
Mrs. Codispoti,
Present.
Mrs. Spinelli.
Here.
Full house.
In compliance with the New Jersey Open Public Meeting Law, commonly referred to as the Sunshine Law, the Vineland Board of Education has caused notice and posting of this meeting to be sent to the following: announcing time, place, therefore, agenda, etc. The Daily Journal, S&J Today, the Press of Atlantic City, Nuestra Comunidad, Vista Bueno, and the Clerk for the City of Vineland, and the Administrative Office Public Bulletin. At this time, we will now stand for the flag salute. Do I have a motion to open the public hearing on the 2023-24 budget? So moved.
Roll call.
Roll call, please.
Ms. Acosta,
Yes.
Ms. Fabry,
Yes.
Mr. Fiocchi, Mr. Holmes,
Yes.
Mr. Rivera,
Yes.
Mrs. Sabrana,
Yes.
Mr. Silva,
Yes.
Mrs. Codispoti, Ms. Spinelli.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Public hearing on the 2023-2024 budget. Limit to 5 minutes, including board member questions.
I do have some sheets. Anybody's welcome to come up and talk. Roxanne Dorenzis regarding the budget.
You can hear you, okay. It says 3, but that's okay. We'll figure it out. We'll do the math. May I start? Okay. Good evening. I'm Roxanne. Dorenzis. I teach 5th grade at DePalato Elementary. And usually when I share at a meeting, which makes me a little nervous, I'm usually very excited. And tonight, I'm kind of confused and concerned. And it's about the budget. When they made the presentation, there was a line in the budget that said we're moving toward enrollment-based staffing. And being like I am, I was running around excited, telling everyone, yes, this is what we need. And I was thinking we were going to pay attention to the maximum numbers and make sure we were never over them. So I was excited because I thought, thank you, Jesus. For decades, we've been over the limit at the elementary level. And just recently, most of us had the correct number of 21, under 20 or under 21 from, kindergarten to 3rd grade, and then 23 or under for 4th and 5th grade. But still not at the middle school, which is 24. We were grossly over that in several of the classes. I have notes, trying to read. But now I hear about the cuts at the elementary level to send the staff up to the middle schools. Why? We will be over the class max again down at the elementary level. See, to me, this is a fancy way of saying cuts, which never works in the student's favor. For years, we can suffer and make do with numbers over the maximum, but as soon as we're under the maximum, it's time to cut. It's time to move toward an enrollment-based staffing. Why aren't we using the millions of dollars to hire more teachers for the middle school? Sorry. Again, as soon as we make these cuts, then we will be out of compliance again at the elementary level. And by the way, having 21 or 23 or 24 students in the class is the maximum number, which is like having a D. As soon as you're over just even one student, you failed. We are out of compliance, breaking the law. Is that the message we want to send to the community, that Vineland is the place where we just make do for our kiddos? Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. I believe there was a question in there regarding why are we doing this? So I'm going to attempt to answer that. We unfortunately do have to look towards the maximum class size at every level due to financial purposes. We're not looking to exceed that. Based on our data, we are meeting those quotas with the 21, 20, well, we've done the numbers. To get to the 20, 21, 23, and the 24. So while we are cutting positions at the elementary level based on enrollment-driven cuts, it's with those class sizes in mind. Thank you.
I'll add something else too. So when we look at our staff and we look at pre-K to 12th grade, we look at enrollment driven as a way to balance all of our class sizes. We addressed multiple grievances and challenges from the association to look more closely at our enrollments in all of our grade levels, with the understanding that we had quite a bit of large class sizes at the middle school level. So what we did is we looked at the formula, which we have. We know that as a former Abbott district, we have to maintain class size as best we can, 21 or below, K3, 23, 4th and 5th grade, as you mentioned. And we saw where can we be efficient, where can we collapse classes, because we had some sections that are well below the minimums. So we wanted to find where we can get those positions and then offset some of the challenges that we're having at our middle schools, especially in our block periods, art, health classes, so on and so forth. So it's a net increase at middle school, a net decrease at the elementary school, but in the end, it's all balancing out. And this is all based off of an enrollment for the district. We were just talking to our demographer today, where the enrollment for the school district has, for the last couple of years, started to dip. Although it feels like it's getting larger at times in certain grade levels, the overall trend has been a decrease in enrollment. Based on that, our staffing hasn't changed in the last number of years, especially at the elementary levels. So we ran through, looked at all of our numbers of class sizes, how many staff were in each different grade level, and came up with a formula to maximize those full-time equivalents of teachers. Dr. Rossi, who's not able to be with us this evening, he is meeting with building principals, and I believe he started already to look at what is the impact to each building. We also have the ESSER funding that expires, ESSER funding, federal monies that came in to support teachers. We had a number of positions, 35 positions that were on year-to-year contracts. It was very clear to everyone that those positions were going away once the federal money went away. The school district budget could not take those positions and be added them onto our school-based budgets. It would have been impossible to manage, and we could not. So we have that group of people also whose positions, and they're well aware, they signed a one-year contract. Dr. Rossi made sure to review that with every single one of our employees. So now what we're doing is we're looking at all of the increases, the decreases, the retirements, and Dr. Rossi and our building principals and the school leader teams will be coordinating to make sure where can we find positions for all of our staff. That process should be starting in the next week or so. More information will come out, but we couldn't provide information without having a clear picture, between personnel department and school leaders. So that's why you may not have heard all the information. I know there's a lot of rumors. There's always rumors around the process, but we just wanted to make sure that it was clear tonight as to why we are working through this process. Thank you.
Regina Merkel.
Hello, everyone. I'm Regina Merkel, and I am here as the Vice President of VEA. I'm also here as a 5th grade ICR teacher. I, along with Roxanne, am very concerned about the proposed cuts to elementary school. You've all been in our schools. Most of you have. You know what it's like in an elementary school. That's where our foundation. It is the most important years of our children's lives. So in one school, there's going to be numerous amounts of students in a 3rd grade classroom, and in another building, they get to sit comfy with only 18 to 20 kids. So I don't find that that's the right answer. And I am asking this board to please sit, talk, think about this decision. It's just not fair. You're robbing Peter to pay Paul. We're going to lose teachers, and they're being sent to middle school just because they're certified to fix a middle school problem. The other issue that I would like to discuss is the RTI basic skills budget. You're pulling from our basic skills budget, and you're putting on job coaches, instructional coaches. I've been here for well over 25 years. Instructional coaches, having a peer tell me how to teach, I'd rather management do that. I'd rather have a supervisor help me. We have such a need for teachers. We have a shortage. Adding instructional coaches is unnecessary. It's not needed. We are very up to date on everything we need to be doing in our classrooms. We should be more concerned with test scores and everything else that there is that we need to do. So I'm hoping that this board can please sit, discuss these topics, that we work together to make Vineland Public Schools successful. Cutting, reducing is not the answer. If we could, anything that we could do is add more basic skills teachers. We don't have enough. We have, in my building, we have 1 basic skills teacher and a literacy teacher. They've been pulled to substitute more than they have been used to teach. So what is the purpose of that position? We need basic skills. By the time students get to 5th grade, I'm the ICR teacher. There's 5 or 8 students in both classrooms that need serious attention because they were just passed through the system. We don't need coaches, we need teachers in the classrooms. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Merkel. Are there any other comments? Come on up. State your name, please.
Hi, everyone. I'm Tara Meyerson. I am a 1st grade teacher in the district. So the title of my speech is Make It Make Sense. So basically, I'm here with just a little bit of honest insight from the trenches. So this kind of has to do with budget, but a little bit about everything, honestly. You know, after some of the things that have been taking place over the past few years in our district, I, along with it seems like the majority of the teaching staff, are confused and frustrated and concerned. I'd like to ask you if you can make any of these things make sense to me. It appears that our budget that our district is becoming more focused on building robust upper management and administration rather than what we're all here for, the kids. That needs to make sense to me. Why have we not allocated money for school safety? What about guidance counselors? What about social workers? I mean, I've been asking that for years, and I get the same answer is, well, we have to pull from this to do this. It's just, I don't get how that's not a priority. So I would love for that to be made sense to me. Teacher morale is at an all-time low, and getting attendance letters doesn't make sense either. Make that make sense. Again, the allocation of for a third assistant superintendent with a 6-figure salary in the midst of a cut in teaching staff, make that make sense. We're adding reading coaches to each of our elementary schools when basic skills intervention staff is dwindling and non-existent. Make that make sense to me. what are the priorities of this district? It's becoming very unclear. You know, we have a beautiful, which I was on the committee for, this beautiful portrait, but that's not going to address academics. It's not. It's great, but it's not going to answer these questions that are, the severe issues of our kids are struggling academically. Reading and math scores are not good. And I teach first grade, and half of my kids, I mean, they're struggling, more than half. You know, every year it gets worse and worse, and I'm like, well, what's happening? Oh, basic skills intervention is cut, cut, cut. I came from middle school. I taught Read 180, helped so many kids, and then they cut it. They just cut it right out from under, and that was 10 years ago, and then I got moved to first grade. And I'm seeing the same thing happening. Like that should be a priority, so it doesn't really make sense, and I'm not the only one that thinks that. Our kids are struggling with safety, okay? Teachers don't feel safe. Basically, a lot of this is behavior management. That's not being addressed. And barely, you know, all of our students are monumentally struggling in academics, and one teacher anymore in a classroom is not the answer. So a reading coach sounds great, but we have literacy specialists who are just basically a basic skills teacher. and I'm just wondering what an instructional coach, again, like Regina said, I mean, I've been a teacher for 15 years. I don't know if listen, I'm all up to date on all the stuff with teaching and pedagogy and professional development. No offense. I mean, I can research things and come up with stuff on my own. I don't really see why we need a coach. I just don't, just for me. So these things don't make any sense, so maybe you could enlighten me a little bit. And I know it's not easy to come up with a budget. I get it. I totally understand. And I appreciate all the hard work that goes into it. But it's still missing the mark on so many areas. And I know you may have an answer for me that sounds lovely, but it doesn't sound lovely to your staff, to your teachers. It doesn't. I'm sorry, it just doesn't. And we're hurting. We're hurting. The kids are hurting. And we want this stuff addressed respectfully. Thank you.
I'll address the item of the instructional coaches. Instructional coaches are an important part of any type of reform movement to increase student achievement. We know that we have many challenges from the wide range of ability levels we're finding in our classrooms. Because of COVID, the typical range of performance and ability in the classroom is just absolutely expanded, and it's become much more difficult to address those needs in the classroom. Instructional coaches are our force magnifier. We have a new ELA program. We're currently doing some training this year, but it launches in September. It's going to be a massive change in how we teach literacy, our instructional framework. The work that's being conducted in the curriculum department needs a way to be better kind of cemented into the school-based programs. An instructional coach provides job-embedded professional development. The research that we look at tells us that when you can provide support that's non-evaluative, that's peer-to-peer, teacher-to-teacher, that's the most effective type of professional development that can be provided. We can bring in outside consultants, we can bring in professors to present on topics, but when we have Vineland teachers working with Vineland teachers to improve outcomes for kids, it's going to be the most effective outcome. We've had this in former Abbott districts, and there's been a variety of different scenarios and processes. So before we launch the instructional coaches, we are going to put together a coaching manual built on training and professional development so that all of our instructional coaches, which will be school-based, there'll be support to the school-based team working with the building principal and AP. So it is something that is a change. I understand that we originally started a conversation about trying to increase the number of basic skills teachers and looking at providing those supports, but the budget does not allow to expand in that direction. We are blessed in this district, and a decision made years ago, long before I got here, to have guidance counselors and social workers in all of our schools. So we have a much wider range of support already in our buildings. Through the curriculum department and Dean Rodolfo, there was a grant that was put together where we brought in additional guidance counselors for the district, especially at the K-5 level. We also are in the process of submitting a new grant through the federal, to get federal money to bring in additional supports for mental health and the well-being of our students. So we are addressing it, but we're trying to find different avenues. Everything can't fit under our district budget. I do agree with you, behavior management is one of those areas that we can be working on and looking at more closely. Terry Godlewski and her team and Dina Rodolfo, they've been doing some work around bringing in some experts to work with especially our special ed teachers, but it can also flow into our classrooms as well. And there was something else. We have a new math program coming in. We have our third year of foundations. We have our restorative practices, which is going to handle some of the behavior management. That's also been budgeted. We have trainers. We have district-based trainers who are working with us. Security. We have a partnership with the police department to increase the number of Class 2 officers to support our school district. That's embedded in our district budget. We recently met with two officers. We recently met with the Vineland Police Department to continue to expand our coordination and collaboration with our juvenile team, who do great work. I know everyone respects what they're doing in our buildings. So I know I didn't answer all your questions, but I think I gave a response to most of that. So I'm not sure if there's anything else. Is there? Okay.
In addition to the Class 2 officers that we plan on contracting with the city with, we've also invested $1.7 million in security cameras. We've received another SDA grant to invest another $1.7 million in security cameras. We are investing in our CRG maps. We hired a VHS rover a roving security guard just this year to increase the security over there, and credible messengers. So we are addressing as best we can financially security items. Thank you for your comments, questions. Is there anybody else? No, you can talk
Can I
right
answer?
there.
Okay.
Yes.
I have to apologize to you because I know you wanted these questions ahead of time, so I'm going to ask them. If you can address them, so be it. If not, if you could email us all if you have them, because we got the budget last week. Unfortunately, my mother-in-law passed last Tuesday, and with the funeral and everything, I have had not a lot of time to go through the budget, but I was going through a few things. One about the security and the question Ms. Meyerson asked about the guidance and adding more security. I think I asked the same question in the last meeting with the organizational chart. I think it's great that we have cameras, more cameras and more cameras, but I think what most people are talking about are more guards in the buildings. So you don't have to address that right this second. These are just things, and I'm getting this a lot from the public too, so everything I ask doesn't necessarily mean it's from me, but I have to ask it from public, and that they're asking me if I know. So, yeah, guards, more guards. They want more guards than the 2 that we put in the budget.
Is that a question or a comment?
Are we putting more guards?
Okay.
How are we going to be able to get more guards? Because this is what's coming from the public, and I know it's budget.
I can address the question. The question is, we're putting 2 guards from the city into the budget.
Okay.
In addition to that, there are no more guards.
Okay.
There are no additional guards
Okay.
put into the budget.
Okay. So then my next question is, I have a few, so you don't have, I guess you can just answer it at the end if you want, 'cause I know I only have 5 minutes, but it might take more than 5 minutes to. Okay. I was going to ask you, which I did yesterday, but I was going to publicly ask about the teaching coaches. I understand it's coming from the line item budget with the basic skills, and one's coming, so we're gaining a teaching coach, but losing a basic skills a teacher. Okay. I'm having a hard time with that because I know our students are still having a hard time and coming from COVID, and we're taking away from our foundational area, which is our elementary. There were some other things. They're in here, I lost it on here. I text myself because I was doing this from work today. There are several salaried supervisory positions, and then I guess on another page, I saw that there were large stipends for the same salaried positions. I'm trying to figure out where the money's coming from. It looks like it's coming from two different accounts.
Can I address that?
Can I, yeah, maybe you can, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I'll clear it up for you. So the supervisors are charged at two different accounts.
Okay,
80% to 221-104, which is curriculum,
okay,
and 20% to 223-102. I believe they're both 102, which is professional development.
okay,
So that's why you see the two line items.
okay,
It's not a stipend.
okay.
Their salary is
Split
portioned
that
out.
way,
Yep.
okay. So it's 80% is the one, and then the other 20%, okay.
80% curriculum, 20% professional development, correct?
Okay. I see our district cell phone, we're paying $90,000 a year for district cell phones. I went on to another page, and it was, why do we need an out-of-district treasurer, which is $4,800, and we're bonding for $2,000? That's almost $7,000 that we might be able to find someplace else. Large number that jumped out at me was $70,000 in postage. $215,000 for an architect. Do we have a project going on that we're using that architect, or is that money that's just sitting there and we can use it if needed?
That money is budgeted based on past practice.
Okay.
Or past usage,
But
I
it's
should
not
say.
using it right now, though.
So we do have many
Okay,
projects going on, especially
Okay.
ESSER.
okay,
If we have a project that is ESSER funded, then we charge those expenditures to the ESSER accounts.
okay. The assistant principals, are we budgeting for any of the open positions, or are we not doing that? And then, I think that's about it right now. Oh, one more thing. I've been asked numerous times, and I know other board members have been too, so I'm just going to ask. When will the public actually get to see the line item budget? Because this is a public hearing, so I know nobody came because nobody saw a budget to ask questions about. I'm just putting it out there because I was asked numerous times.
Okay, so the assistant principals, we have budgeted what our current staff is. Going forward, we have to look at that. Because if we know that 24, 25 is going to be particularly difficult year financially, there's no sense in hiring somebody that you may have to cut. And that's not just that position, it's all positions, positions we need to look at. The line item budget, we included the user-friendly budget. In there, the line item budget will be operable, Bob, if I'm not mistaken, after we approve at the next, at the May 3rd meeting, correct? The user-friendly budget has already been advertised. It's on our website.
The user-friendly budget has been linked
Yes.
on the website.
Is that user-friendly budget what you prepared for us, or is it more extensive?
The user-friendly budget is pretty, it's summarized.
But it's more than what that presentation was.
It'll show you categorically how we spend. I think you'll get more information.
Friendly.
What's that?
Because this was not user-friendly.
No, that is the user-friendly budget.
What you gave us?
What's attached to the budget. I think you're going to get more information out of the budget presentation.
But thank you for all your hard work and your staff.
Sure.
The DOE protocols indicate user-friendly budget gets dispersed, or actually distributed, should I say, 48 hours after the public hearing. So administration decided to link it beforehand because it didn't seem to make much sense to distributed it afterward. So even though that's the protocol that DOE has, it doesn't seem to make much sense.
By posting it on the website, that satisfies that requirement, Bob? Okay, thank you.
I mean, I'm not an accountant, but, and I'm still going through it. But these just popped out, so thank you.
So if anybody would like to meet to discuss the user-friendly budget, I'm available. We can go over it line by line. Or if you want to discuss the line-by-line budget that you've all had access to if you requested. Are there any other comments, questions from the board?
I have a question.
Yes.
Could you, you or Mr. Yano, clarify, because I heard, I apologize, I didn't know who said it, a third superintendent? Can we clarify that, if that's the case?
Thank you. That's right. There was a comment about a third assistant superintendent. There is not a third assistant superintendent coming online. In this current school year budget, we had a position called Director of Operations, which we did not fill because we made some adjustments. Mr. Mustarell picked up the business department and also kept on transportation, and Dr. Sneven remained with security. So we did not launch the Director of Operations position this year. So that's already a budgeted position. There is no reduction or movement from another position to create the Director of Curriculum. It's funding that we already have. We just changed the title, and that's currently open now for, it's in the search process on AppleTrack. So it is not an assistant superintendent. It's actually the director position is under a principal certificate. So it's a principal certified cabinet level position, but it is not an assistant sup.
Additionally, administrative cost-wise, Vineland is typically and historically lower than the state and county average.
How much are the salaries based like in between with these teaching coaches and that one position that we just posted for the
The salaries
Director.
have remained the same.
You can email me, I just was curious.
The instructional coach position is a VEA position, so it complies with
Right.
their negotiated contracts and their table.
This new director position.
That'll be, we have, I don't know the exact number we have budgeted for, but that would be less than an assistant superintendent, equal to probably a principal position.
I just knew somebody was gonna ask.
So at this time, we'll take a motion to close the public hearing on the 2023-2024 budget.
So moved.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Fiocchi, did you second that?
Yes, I did.
Thank you. Ms. Acosta?
Yes.
Ms. Fabry?
Yes.
Mr. Fiocchi?
Yes.
Mr. Holmes?
Yes.
Mr. Rivera?
Yes.
Mrs. Sobrana?
Yes.
Mr. Silva?
Yes.
Mrs. Cottaspati? Ms. Spinelli? Passed.
Public comment on any matter, and please limit yourself to 3 minutes. Anyone? Seeing none? Okay. Now we're going to move on to board member comments, starting with Mr. Rivera.
Budgets are never easy. Building a budget is never easy, and you know it's difficult to make everyone happy or everyone pleased with the decisions we make. My hope is that in the years to come that the worst is not going to appear, that the worst is not going to come to fruition. I'm confident that we have a strong team, all, from the top to the bottom, and that whatever challenges we may face in the future, or in the near future or in the far future, we'll be able to hit them head on and overcome those challenges. That is all for me. Have a good night. Thank you.
Mr. Sobrana.
I'm opposed to a 6% tax increase and any cuts in basic skills. We can have instructional coaches and all the basic skills teachers we have now, or perhaps more. I think that would be appropriate. Thank you.
Mr. Silva.
Nothing at this time.
Mr. Fiocchi.
I just want to thank Mr. Mostrell and his team. I know the tremendous amount of work it takes to go into this budget, and I also appreciate you taking the time to answer all my questions prior to the meeting. Thank you.
Mr. Holmes.
Nothing at this time.
Ms. Acosta.
Nothing at this time.
Ms. Fabry.
I am struggling a little bit. I'd like to talk further about the teaching coaches are a direct link to the teacher and staff, if that's what I'm understanding. The basic skills teachers are directly in front of the students. So how do we, apples to apples, make that pull from one to do the other? So I'm struggling with that a little bit, and I'd like to learn more about it. Other than that, we can speak about it later this week. Thank you.
Ms. Cataspati.
I think I said enough earlier, but thank you, Mr. Mostrell, for bearing with me, for not being able to get the questions to you prior to tonight, and thank you for answering everything and your hard work.
Mr. Yano.
The budget development process is difficult, it's challenging. The focus we took this year and last year is students first. All the changes that we're making is to improve outcomes for our staff. I've heard consistently as I've gone to different buildings the need for additional school-based supports. School-based support can be seen in different ways. There's that which is direct to the student. There's also support that's direct to teachers, which in turn is applied directly to students. So like I said earlier, instructional coaches are force magnifiers. They're able to really drive the initiative at a level that's non-evaluative. That's been very important in a lot of the districts I've worked in, that you can provide non-evaluative support. Teachers want to feel that they can express their concerns, their thoughts, without an administrator possibly evaluating them. I know our administrators do a great job of that as well, but it is a different vibe and energy when you have an administrator supporting a teacher. I feel passionately that teachers are often the best teacher of other teachers because of their experience, their training, and their credibility, because they've been in the street on the front line working with our kids. By bringing in instructional coaches at our elementary schools, I believe we're going to see some amazing things continue, because we already have a great foundation. So I just wanted to point that out, that we are working very hard along that path with the curriculum department and our school-based security. We've had many meetings. We have more to come. We met last week with our chief of police and the city of Vineland, Director Alisea, and we are looking at a strategy to take security to a higher level of support next year, which again may require additional changes, which everyone might not be happy with, but we're trying to do the best we can for our kids, and it's about our students, our staff, the safety of all of our buildings. So we take that very seriously. Thank you.
Thank you. Definitely not an easy budget, and I think from what I've taken from it was next year is going to be worse. So, thank you to Scott for answering all my questions, Mr. Yano. I did, have a lot of them and went through line by line. When you're not familiar with that kind of work, it is a lot to take in. It was 168 pages and to go line by line. But I think that the board has done a really good job in getting the tough questions out and being transparent. And there's still work to do, and we are still working on it. So I'm hopeful that we're going to get to where we need to be. The instructional coaches are a hard sell for me. Robbing Peter to pay Paul, I do agree with that. Just had a little sidebar up here with Mr. Yano. So there is still some work to do, but we are trying to do the best that we can. On another note, it is the superintendent's evaluation time. So tonight, me and Mr. Yano did have our pre-conference to his evaluation, and I'm just going to run through the process. Everyone got an email from me today on what is to expect, and I have some dates for you. So April 24th starts the process. On May the 4th, the superintendent will input all of his goals and evaluate himself. 48 hours after the superintendent completes his portion of the evaluation, an email will be sent out to all board members for them to then go ahead and go in and evaluate him. That will be due on May the 9th. Executive session will be on June 7th during the board meeting. A performance report will generate on June 8th and will be shared with the superintendent in a special meeting. And additionally, we will have an executive session either on 6/21 or 6/28. So let me just run through that one more time. So May the 9th, the board will input all of the stuff that Mr. Yano had put in and evaluate him. On June the 7th, during our board meeting, we will have executive session and we will go over what the majority of the board feels. And then on June the 8th, I will input everything and share it with Mr. Yano. And then we will have a special meeting with the executive session either on 6/21 or 6/26. So that is the process, so get to work.
That's right.
And that is all I have this evening, so at this time, I would like to adjourn the meeting. All in favor? Aye.